How's it going, guys and gals? My name is Beckett and welcome back to another Beckett Reacts video. Today I'm going back to the realm of Jubilee with Middle Ground, and today is an interesting one. Today we are watching a video called Should Minors Transition, Detransition versus Trans. I assume detransition means that they So what does detransition mean in trans? So I just did a quick Google search, and detransition is basically, well, it means both to like stop it and just to reverse it completely as well. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna go with no on that one. Obviously they're still obviously they're still minors and stuff, so like that, like they haven't yet grown up enough to understand everything, and I mean, it's a big life decision, and one that doesn't go without a lot of hardship, I assume. So yeah. But anyway, let's have a look, see what these people say, shall we? Let's go.
If you feel attacked by the opposite side.
Huh? Wait, sorry, no, hold on, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna wait to see who that person is, because she's gonna flipping. Okay then.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
What classes as a minor? Oh no, what age? What age classes as minor? Minor with an O in there, Toby. Academic minor. No, I don't want academic minor. I want. Is that not computer? What age class is it as a minor?
From pit.edu. Any individual under 18 years of age is considered a minor.
Right. Thank you. So why did you just say that in Google, for God's sake? Right, okay. In that right, so now I know that. In that case,
Gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
yeah. Probably yes.
Medical transition is no place for a child.
So it literally gives me the actual definition of it now. Detransitioning means stopping or reversing gender transition, which can include medical treatment or changes in appearance or both.
I transition as an adult, and I have medical complications. I have mental health issues. Child cannot consent to medical transition because kids want to eat ice cream every day. It doesn't mean that they should.
I kind of agree with you on that as well, because we have so many rules and regulations when it comes to tobacco or alcohol or any type of drugs. Driving a car, you can't even, rent a motel until you're like 25. There's some specific things that we need to put into place that I think would help protect our children, because the minors themselves really don't know who they are until they become 25, 26 years old. Their minds aren't fully developed, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
So I did transition as a as a minor. You know, I was a teenager who had a lot of mental health issues and had been sexually exploited and hated my body. And it ended with me kind of finding spaces where that was twisted into, no, you're just a boy in the wrong body. And it ended with me having my first ever medical intervention being a double mastectomy at 16 before any hormones, before anything else. And because of transitioning at such a young age, in the past 6 months, I have watched my body fall apart and waste away in front of me. You know, I have constant joint pain. I've watched my muscle mass waste away. I've watched my vocal cords hurt. I don't know if I'll ever be able to carry a child. The evidence we have suggests that the best way to figure out if gender dysphoria persists into adulthood is to let them grow up. Because a lot of these kids will grow out of it, and many of them will just grow up and end up being gay or gender nonconforming.
Yep.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
I mean, if we're going to be honest, every major medical organization supports gender-affirming care for trans youth. They say it's safe and it's life-saving. And there are numerous studies that back that up.
The study that backs it up for puberty blockers is the Dutch protocol, and the same scientists—
I have 10 studies that I can bring to you right now.
The same scientists that brought that up have since rolled it back and said it was never supposed to be applied the way it has. The American medical industry, we all know, is money hungry and has gone off the rails.
I do agree that there are definitely some doctors out there that may be taking advantage of trans people, and I'm sorry that you went through this. Truly, I really am sorry. But trans kids are valid, and it's not a decision that they're making.
Right.
It's healthcare.
I want to speak to that real quick. Like, I came out 13 years ago when I was 14, and I knew, not that I was trans, but that I was a boy. I had to go through a lengthy process of therapy and seeing an endocrinologist and like go through different tests and exams to make sure that this was real to everyone else involved. Transitioning and being trans was just a process I went through to become who I always knew I was. It wasn't a like decision that I made. It was a life or death thing for me. And if I hadn't gotten on hormones and gotten surgery at 16, I don't know if I would be here.
As a father,
It's him.
I have 4 kids, and also as a trans person, I think that knowing what it looked like
He was on
for
the
me as a child.
Pause. He was on the I think he was on the I think alpha male versus male. I think no, it was the traditional male versus modern male. I think, or something like that. I know what video I'm on about. I'll put it up like here now. No, it was in that one.
And that experience of going through all of the turmoil and all of the trepidation around my gender identity, I would not put my children in that situation. And also, I don't think that surgeries should be allowed for minors. Like, when we look at the data and we look at the statistics and we look at the research, the vast majority of these surgeries are happening to adults. They're not minors. Yeah. So let's start there, right? And then further than that, if we look at puberty blockers
are medicines that prevent puberty from happening. They work by blocking hormones, testosterone and estrogen, that lead to puberty-related things and puberty-related changes in the body.
Are reversible. So when it comes to children, when we talk about puberty blockers, that gives them a shot.
Yeah.
And it gives them autonomy over their bodies. It gives them a space that they can explore their expression. They can explore who they are without surgeries, without all of these other things that could have permanent effects. My kids were maybe 8 and 10 when I started my transition. And so I talked to them in kid terms. I told my son, I said, look, your mom, dad wants to be a dad because that's how I feel. And my kids being so young, they understood it. They were like, okay, we're with it, And so as they got older, I would bring them into my world and get them to understand the things that maybe I was going through. But now that they're adults, they understand differences in people, not just trans people, but people in general.
So there is such thing as gender fluid. How
Yes.
do you know that this kid is not going to change their gender expression later on? We really actually don't have studies on children that are taken over long term, like over 10 years, 20 years. You've only been on testosterone 14 years. One of the oldest trans men, Buck Angel, he almost died from testosterone. You're saying right now it saved your life. You may still die from it. You don't know. You're
die
still
happy.
Exactly.
You'll die
adult,
for
you can
ideology,
make
and a
that
lot of
decision.
people have died for an ideology.
It's not an ideology.
But we have
It
more
is.
people that
Who
are
I am.
dying because
an
they're not
idea that you were
allowed
born
to
in the wrong
express
body.
themselves. Look at the suicide rate of transmasculine folks is at 55%, and one of the factors that could save their lives is support. Right? And so if we have folks that are committing suicide because they're not allowed to transition, how do we fix that? If
I
you're telling me the
think the
transition
first
for
thing-
children or minors is something that shouldn't be done.
The first here, I am very sensitive to this subject, as I have been the person who has had to talk people off the ledge when it comes to suicidality. The discussion around how we talk about suicide is a very dangerous one in this community. You know, my parents were told, do you want a dead daughter or a living son? That's not an appropriate way to talk about that.
And I understand that, but
And
it is our transmasculine youth
I understand
that
that.
are at the highest risk
I
of
understand that,
suicide.
and they deserve help. But we also need to have a responsible conversation that is not using suicide as a means to push them down a pipeline before they have that comprehensive care.
So I have a question.
Sorry, Aris, I know you've been wanting to say
Yeah,
something.
no, because I have a big problem. Oh, yeah, no, so I'm not an interrupter. What I'm going to say is we insult children, our youth, so much by taking away their autonomy and their own agency over their own decisions and insulting that they know who they are. Like an adult knows who they are more than they do. No one knows who I am more than I do.
Right.
And it's always been that way. I've always known who I was. I've never felt like I was in the wrong body. I just had to adjust my body. And so I think taking away kids' agency and the right to their own body is, it's anti-human.
I have a question. Do you believe minors should be able to get tattoos or plastic surgery or consent to the list of
That's
other?
so different.
I
No, wait, no,
understand,
hold on,
I
let me
understand they
answer
are
this question
different
for
things,
you.
but to what
No, you
level
can't
do
even
we?
make that
No, to what level do we give children bodily autonomy over everything they do? Because here's the thing, children need barriers in childhood development. You need barriers, and they need a safe way to push against those barriers. And I worry with the current medical system that instead of giving them a safe way to express themselves and push against barriers, we have taken some of those barriers away. And that is why you see more detransitioners, because those barriers have been lifted.
Yeah, they're not just doling out surgeries for children. That's not happening
I had a
anywhere.
letter from a therapist in a single visit at the gender clinic office
And
before
that
I
was
had the
abuse from
first.
that therapist who did
Yeah,
not
that- Yeah,
that's
psychoanalyze
awful.
the
That
rest of
shouldn't
your
not
issues.
happen.
Right, and that shouldn't
because
have happened.
your
Not
issues
happen
weren't
to you.
being trans. There were a lot of other issues that you're
I have a
addressing right
diagnosis
now.
of gender dysphoria as
And
well.
you shouldn't. You were misdiagnosed.
No, I have one.
Right.
Yeah, you had to get a second opinion, honey.
And how was
Can
how was I supposed to do that when my parents were told
That's
that
not
I would
your
kill
fault.
myself?
But your
Yeah, that's not your
parents,
fault.
your parents,
Their biggest crime in all this was trusting a medical system that they thought would help me, and the professionals apparently not doing the right thing
I
here.
understand, but your
Yeah,
parents were
absolutely
responsible for the decisions that were made on your behalf.
I think that what this really highlights is the importance of you sharing your story, because what it shows is that you can't jump into these transitions, and you
Yeah.
shouldn't listen to these doctors that push you to transition just
Nobody
because you're feeling a
should.
certain way.
Social media brainwashes teens to believe that they're trans.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't. It's. I'm not that I'm putting it past them. It's likely it happens. But it might be it might be like a byproduct of say, for example, just all like the inclusivity that there's like that there is these days. Like there's so much like debate over the over LGBTQ. If I can say it right, LGBTQ plus issues, and like because of that, and as well as that, not only that, but there's also like also that whole thing about toxic masculinity and like feminism and stuff. And I think well, I don't know if brainwashing is the right word. I don't know if brainwashing is the right word for it, but I definitely think that it just with the whole combination of a bunch of different factors, it probably has some sort of negative. It probably has a form of negative impact on like young kids, most likely.
I have to agree on that one. Like, there's this thing about it.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's this
Oh,
play
yeah.
that they have.
I don't think that it necessarily brainwashes children, but
Yeah.
I think there are a
Influences.
lot of people who get into being queer or trans because it's trendy, and I know that's a really controversial statement
Exactly.
to make as a trans person, but I have seen it, I have experienced it, and I also find that social media, especially apps like TikTok, give a lot of these kids so much misinformation
Yes.
and lead to people thinking they're trans when there are much deeper issues, and everyone just wants to belong and find an identity, especially when they're young. You know?
I think brainwash is such a strong
that's a
word.
very
Yeah,
aggressive word. I
when
would
it's-
not. That's why I hesitated to step forward.
And that's why I
yeah.
would step in and actually say it's more so of like a social contagion.
Social contagion is the spread of emotions or behaviors from one individual to another, sometimes without awareness. Yeah, sounds about right.
It's just, yeah.
What got me to transition in the first place was social media. It had a grasp on me that there could be something else out in the world for me during that discovery, and I played it to the fullest 100%. I even passed as a female for a good, what was it, 6 years out of the 7 that I was transitioned. And later down the road, I went and paid out of pocket and talked to just a regular therapist, and she made me start questioning my own existence in a way, what I can do as a human being, not just as a male or a female, but what can I contribute to the society. And it made me open up to maybe I was born as a male, and it feels empowering to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was heavy on social media. Like in my transition, Tumblr, that was the place to be for sure. And everyone was talking about their transition from my experience, and everyone was talking about a lot of mental health issues, depression, and all of that. And it was kind of being trendy in that sense. Like when TikTok came out, like that was like a whole nother world. And the biggest thing that I found with that is like they weren't saying a lot of the negative things that were happening in their transition. There was always like a positive outlook on it, like I'm being who I need to be, like this is great.
This is the ticket to your happiness.
Yeah, and
that's how it's sold.
like so much on social media. Like I made a documentary on my transition, and I really went into depth of like a lot of my depression that I dealt with on that, and I didn't find anyone talking about that.
I personally didn't think I was trans till I saw earlier trans YouTubers. Before I was just gender bending man. And for sure, I also feel like comparing yourself on social media to other people that are more beautiful and successful will create dysphoria of some kind. And some people,
it will affect your self-image for sure.
Because we see all those beautiful trans women that are all dolled up or had every possible plastic surgery they could ever get. You're gonna feel dysphoria. You're gonna be like, I don't look like that.
And
so
that's
I
in have to go general, through though.
steps.
You know what I mean? Whether you're
Right.
cis or trans, everyone
So
is
social media
is
has
dealing
such
with
a-
that
I've fallen
for
into
sure.
that
It
from
has
looking
such
at
a bad impact on
actors
mental
and stuff. I
health.
wanted to be that muscular dude, and I wanted to do
100%.
that. So
No.
yeah,
It is such a
It
bad,
does indeed.
like, well-documented bad impact on people's like sense
Right.
of self and mental health, and so.
But I also really quickly just want to say, like, I don't want people to think that, like, social media is turning people trans.
yeah, we agree with that.
Yeah, no.
All right, can the disagreeer step forward?
Yeah, okay, so my thoughts on social media and everyone suddenly looking or being trans. I think whoever is leaning towards that or looking towards being trans for answers was always someone that felt that way or felt some type of way about their gender or their identity or the way they present themselves. They're just gonna go that way. I know plenty of femme twinks who went the muscle queen pipeline. It's not a rare occurrence. And so just experience your life, have fun. Try not to take social media seriously because no one is advertising their failures. It's all fake.
Yeah, but I think it is also important to say that like social media is very, very effective. You know, I mean, I personally scroll on TikTok and I'm like, do I have OCD? Do I have autism? Like all these different things. And like it
That's what
can
I'm
suck you in.
Yeah.
So it's important to be aware of those things.
I have a question for Samantha, since you have the largest platform here. Do you believe over the years you've inspired people to transition?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that I've inspired people to believe that it's okay to be transgender, it's okay to express themselves, and that it's possible to live a happy and successful life.
How do you feel about the fact that some of them are going to regret the body modifications they got and going to have like...
I think that they should go to a doctor that is well-versed in gender care and have the appropriate psychoanalytic analysis done beforehand. That's not my
And
problem.
I feel like a lot of folks are going to social media looking for possibility models. They're looking to see if they're okay. I know for me, when I was very young, looking to see if there were other people like me, because for a long time I thought that I was
The only one.
Exactly.
I thought I was the
right.
only one,
And
yeah.
so feeling like that, like suicide was a thing for me.
Me too.
Right. And so when I did see a possibility model, when I did see somebody that looked like me, that put me in a space where I was like, I'm okay.
Sigh of relief.
Right.
I will say there's also a difference from like showing people that you can have a positive life and then telling them what to do. So I think you on your channel are kind of like, hey, look what I was able to do and how this made me feel, versus like, you should do this because I did this.
Right.
So I
And I'm
think,
also, I try my best to be very upfront
right,
about you know, the
because
issues
we
of
can't help if
transition.
someone's
Exactly.
going to change their mind on something. Like that's inevitable.
Yeah.
We're humans.
And I have to jump
Yeah.
on one more thing with that. Like, if I'm watching her channel and it inspires me to transition, I have been watching white straight men be president for years, and I've not wanted to be president once. So I don't identify with that. If we're going to talk about brainwashing, let's talk about where we see things every single day happening a certain way versus someone just living their life authentically.
People with gender dysphoria need therapy, not surgery.
I think therapy, I think probably, I'm gonna go yes, but on the basis that to help you understand what it is you're feeling and to see if for example, if wanting to be transgender is actually what it is you're looking for. Yeah, no, I think it's probably more effective. They need therapy first, and then to properly identify if they need the surgery or not. So I'm gonna go indecisive, just because of the way it's worded.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that one.
I don't.
I've been convinced.
We all agree.
I think
It's potentially both, though.
Yeah.
I think everyone with gender dysphoria needs to go through a therapeutic
Yeah.
process and mental health care
Yeah.
before they make that choice for themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Simple.
I personally confused a lot of my gender dysphoria for body dysmorphia, because no matter how much I feminize my body, till today I still don't feel comfortable in my own body. And now, like, looking among like members of trans community, I see that people keep on getting more and more surgeries. The surgeries are no longer affirming. You can just tell that this person is like struggling with body images. I was able to get on estrogen pretty quickly when I was 22, and my mental health declined afterwards, and I attributed it to being still in the wrong body, needing more body modification, end up getting sex reassignment surgery. I do believe that transition was sold to me as a hardware fix for my mental issues that were not addressed. I still struggle with internalized homophobia that pushed me into transition in the first place. I struggle with borderline personality disorder, body dysmorphia. I'm on a spectrum, I'm ADHD, and I have all those issues that were not helped, and I was still struggling with them after transition, and I still do. Overall, after a few years, I came to a conclusion that I was not in the wrong body, that I'm a gender non-conforming man, and I am a feminine man. That's what I am.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but I've had a lot of binary trans people say that it's not a mental health issue. Like, if you're trans, and I know I don't agree with that. Like, I think there's a disconnect between the mind and the body. I guess I'm asking that. Like, it's like, do you think that it's a mental health disorder? And
I don't
needs to
think
have
being
therapy?
transgender is a mental health
Disorder,
disorder.
right.
I think, you know, gender incongruence is what they're referring to it as now. It's listed as a sexual health concern, but the gender dysphoria, which is the symptom that arises when you are transgender, is a mental health concern.
So maybe I'm thinking of, like, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
say then in a sense.
And then
Yeah.
once you are diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and I feel like this is kind of what the prompt is kind of hinting at, if you do have gender dysphoria, the only treatment for that is transition.
Right.
Whether that be just a social transition, a medical transition, whatever transition fits you, that is the only way to heal your gender dysphoria. When I transitioned, the first thing my mom said to me was, can't you just be gay? It hurt hearing that, but a big reason that she said that was she was afraid of what my dad would think. He's always been very, very conservative, very traditional, you could say. He would make comments about trans people, about gay people growing up, so I always knew that he wasn't necessarily accepting. So when it came down to me transitioning, I said to him, I'm going to do this. Either you're going to be the dad that accepts me and supports me through it, or like, goodbye. And he chose to support me, and we're closer than ever now.
And I think a lot of us go through medical transitions to easier go through social transition.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And so a lot of our folks that do transition and may detransition, both experiences are valid, but also understanding that we're not mentally ill because we're trans.
Yes.
Right. And I think that there should be a psychiatrist or someone within behavioral health to be able to say, okay, you're in the right frame of mind to make this decision. But I want to just make it very clear that trans people are not dealing with mental health because they're trans.
Absolutely.
I disagree. I feel like transgender is definitely, and elderly trans people afford for it to be classified as mental illness, so it's covered by insurance. Otherwise, why are you getting the surgeries to?
Because
if it's not a
dysphoria.
medical condition?
The dysphoria is a medical condition.
It is, but it's in your head. I would say that you have some kind of mental disorder if you're trying to mimic a stereotype of opposite sex.
Right,
to
but
pass
it's
in
not a
society.
mimic. It's
The treatment for
aligning.
this mental illness is to transition.
I have a question though, because I have a gender dysphoria diagnosis, I always have. But I'm still where I am today.
Can I give you my honest opinion? I think that you were probably misdiagnosed.
I
and
don't
that-
think I was.
So you
Do you
do
feel
have gender dysphoria?
in your body?
I certainly do now.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Well, because of the
you
changes that you
want
made.
to talk about now, but at the time,
At the time, did
at
you?
the time, I genuinely believed I did. I thought it would save me. And then looking back, I realized that my dysphoria stemmed from some severe trauma that was not handled.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I think that mental health step is so important.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I've heard this from several other, mostly female detransitioners who we had some form of pretty bad trauma that spawned gender dysphoria symptoms.
Yeah.
And we can disagree about misdiagnosis or something later, but it felt real at the time for me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it did. I didn't mean that.
And
in a-
no,
in a
I know.
malicious way.
And it's one of those things where that's where the mental health treatment really needs to come in and get to the root of that issue, because oftentimes, specifically with the detransitioners I've talked to, that was ignored. I came out to my parents in a mental health facility after telling the therapist that I thought I was transgender. And she told me we had to tell your parents so that way you can get the help you need. It led to me seeing a gender therapist who, honestly, the issues I was facing were never addressed. To this day, no one ever addressed the fact that I had severe, trauma and exploitation going on as a young teenager. Instead, I was kind of just affirmed in, you believe this, and instead of even just a little pushback, it led me to the point where the very first medical intervention I ever had was a double mastectomy at 16. A few months after that, I started testosterone because it was the next step of what I was supposed to do.
God intended for there to be only two genders.
This is where I have to pipe up here. No. Okay. Whether or not he intended for there to be only two, or he intended for humanity to blossom, I'm going to use the word blossom or branch out the way that it did, I cannot say. I'm not religious in any way, I've not read the Bible, so I cannot, on firm enough ground, say that, yes. That being said, whether or not he intended for there to be two genders, or more than for there to be only two genders or not is beside the fact that there are more than two genders. Yes, I am of the firm belief that there are only two sexes, that being the sex of the male and the female. But in terms of gender, I'm a firm believer and supporter of the LGBTQ+ community, and therefore I'm under the understanding and under the belief that there can be more than two genders. That's the way I see it. So I can't directly answer the quote, but I can give a related answer of the quote based on my years of experience. Ish, something like that, yeah.
Does.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, so as a
comes the
Christian, I truly believe
crocodile.
that God created male and female, and He created that throughout life, throughout the nature, throughout the wildlife, throughout Earth itself. And then the arguments come up into the ocean sides of, well, there's these asexual creatures and stuff like that. Well, they were designed that way for a reason, and we humans were not designed to. We were designed to procreate and be able to bring life back to the earth, because we live and we die, we live and we die. It's a rotation of a process of life in itself, and it's its own journey. So I truly do believe that there is male and there is female, but I can respect people's choices. However, that's where I stand on it.
Well, I'm not Christian, but I do believe there's only two biological sexes, and somehow
Yes.
that's how it's been designed, whether it's by higher power or by evolution. I do believe gender expression has been on a spectrum for centuries. We do have references to people who've been cross-dressing, we have references to eunuchs. And as somebody who went through transition and detransition, when I started taking testosterone, it's almost like reminded me of my original blueprint, and I feel like I went against my original blueprint and I did a lot of damage to it, and I just cannot go back to who I was, because without my testicles, I'm just too far gone in my transition. So that's where I'm at.
Can the disagree step forward?
Yeah, we have historically spent more time focusing on and celebrating several genders. There are several different cultures throughout the world that celebrate the different genders, and to negate the fact that they exist and to negate their validity is just wrong.
There are as many intersex people as there are redheaded people on the planet. I can name 12 people at the top of my head who are born intersex. So to pretend like there's man and woman is just erasing an entire group of people. The God you speak of, the first God that intersex people get to meet, is the doctor, because it's up to their discretion of just what you're gonna be when they mutilate their body to be a man or a woman, and that is not fair.
Yeah. Right.
Right, and I think also gender and male and female is not the same
Biological
thing.
sex are different things.
Yeah, we're talking about gender, which is like gender identity, the social.
Sex is a label, male or female, that you're assigned by a doctor at birth based on the genitals you're born with and on the chromosomes you have. Gender is much more complex. It's a social and legal status and set of expectations from society about behaviors, characteristics, and thoughts.
Aspects
Exactly.
to being a man or a woman, but male and female dictate sex, so like body parts.
I disagree with having sex and gender being two different things.
Okay,
I
well,
believe
that's a
them to be
fact.
one. So I believe that there is, they're the same, they're one and the same. They're not different, but we have evolutionary problems within the humanity, because I also see that there are intersex animals that do exist, and that's how they're born. But I also do believe that the initial design was for man and woman, and then somewhere along the way, viruses, mutations, diseases, plagues, all that type of stuff that we have in the world does play a part back onto the world itself. But I believe the initial intent was for God to create Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. I'm just going to say it.
That's homophobic.
I know it sounds homophobic, and I understand
No,
I'm
it
hitting.
is
It is
homophobic.
homophobic.
Homophobia made me transition, and that's what you're perpetuating right now. I grew up in a very homophobic family, and since I was a kid, I was always brainwashed that
It's one of those topics, isn't it? It's one of those topics where no matter what happens, it's the deeper you go into it, the more just obvious opposites you're gonna get. Like, because right there he was saying he understands it all, but this is the way he sees it, and now we're going, that's transphobic or whatever. That's transphobic. Did they say transphobic, didn't they?
I grew up. Homophobia made me transition, and that's what you're perpetuating right now.
Homophobic.
Oh, homophobic, yeah. It's like, when he's being genuine and he's like, and like, understand that this is just how I feel, like, he's not trying to, like, insult them or anything, but by just saying what he believes, he is sort of insulting them, so... Yeah, that's where this whole thing starts to clash a little bit, I believe.
That's okay. And since I was a kid, I was always brainwashed that gay is bad. My parents were not happy that I was naturally feminine. They always tried to make me more masculine. They tried to give me to masculine sports. I was mercilessly bullied at school for my femininity, constantly being told that I'm not a real man, that I'm a sissy. And when I came out to my parents as gay, they took me to therapists and tried to do pretty much conversion therapy on me, which failed.
So I don't believe in God. I believe in people that exist right in front of me, and I believe they should have the right to exist. And so
I'm not saying they don't have the right to exist. I'm just saying, I'm just saying that
was the
they
weren't
initial
mistakes
intent.
either. They're just here the way you and I are here right now, and they are who they are, and we have to accept people as they are.
Right, and there are biological differences in trans folks. When we look at the brainstem, you know, our brainstems are different. Like
Neurologically.
Right, neurologically, we're different.
Yeah,
and
male
so
and female are different, exactly.
Trans people are different.
Yes.
They've found a distinct difference in the
white matter.
cortex.
There is no biomarker for trans. Some brain scan of some gay males is identical to female brain, but there is no biomarker for trans. Please don't spread misinformation.
There is science that hints towards it. It's just not confirmed.
No,
there's
research.
So therefore, it falls
that
under
hints
the
towards
belief that there is, but there is no scientific fact to back that up, which therefore I believe that God's initial intent was to create male
I
and
think
female.
if God intended to, if God exists and in the way that you believe and just intended to make male and female, then we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
I believe.
It is a little. It is. I mean, that's one thing that I hear a lot. Like, if God there was a robot, then this thing wouldn't happen this way, and that one thing wouldn't happen that way. And that is true. But then I always think of the thing of people say that, that. No, God didn't make us and then just have it all so we can live an easy life. He made it so that we learn these lessons ourselves and stuff. And whereas I can understand the thought process of that, the way he's often described, I kind of have to think of it as more of the first one. Because if he's been described as a person who's there to like be there for humanity, who's humanity's creator, who's there to be there and take care of us and stuff, then the idea that, I'm gonna go off say the idea that all this shit that's happening right now that is happening, kinda debunks right well, but I'm just when we use debunks that sort of idea. But that's the argument I hear. But I do think that in this sort of case, if that is the truth, that he is there, he's our creator, and he is there to like, it is his duty to like be there for us and protect us and whatever for us and like make sure we live happy lives. Then the idea that this is happening is kind of a bit, doesn't quite match up in my head.
In a higher power, right, of my own, and God is not this thing that creates rules and binary situations and laws that can be broken or really made. We're just all here.
Yeah.
You know, like I was born in a female body, but I was never a girl. Never, ever, ever. I can't explain why, but that is my truth, that is the fact, that is who I've always been, and there's no way that I'm gonna look up at this guy at some guide and be like, oh yeah, you made me as a mistake.
Transitioning improved my sex life.
And now for the first time in this video, I can't give any sort of input on this one. Because A, I've not transitioned, and B, neither have I had sex before. So I am in no place to answer this question in any way, shape or form. So I'm just going to let it play.
Who wants to start?
I could start.
And I'm embarrassed.
Not to say that my sex life was bad before, but I think transitioning and coming into my body and feeling comfortable in my skin allowed me to open up more and allowed me to not only be better in bed, but also explore what my sexuality looks like.
Yeah.
Being trans also like made sex really complicated for me too, because I'm a straight guy, and I pass very well, and majority of the women that I've been with, I would have to eventually kind of like break it to them that I was trans and deal with a lot of rejection. And with somebody, I would never let girls touch me or see me without clothes on. Not having a penis made me feel inferior as a man, and that no one would want me, which is why I like rejected that part of myself and never even let it be loved. It took a lot of really accepting that people were going to accept me and be attracted to me and love me and want to give me pleasure regardless of what was in my pants. And that took a long time. It took until I was like, I think I was 21, when my ex-girlfriend and I started dating. From that point on, I realized that just letting someone love me was half the battle. And once I let that piece come into play, I mean, it changed my life.
Do you want to go? You want to go?
Y'all can go, I'll go last.
I mean, so even though I detransitioned, in the beginning, especially when I was on hormones, like it increased my sex drive a lot, and there were a lot of aspects to that that was like enjoyable to explore my fluidity for sure. I was able to date a lot of people, and I think like from detransitioning, it's like the opposite of that. Like my sex drive completely changed in a way that like there's good aspects to not being horny 24/7. It helped me be more comfortable in my body, even with detransitioning, which sounds weird, but like having a trans male body was like so different from the norm. So like I had to accept certain parts of myself. So like even with detransitioning, it helps me accept like certain parts of myself that I don't have still.
Absolutely.
I did identify as a gay man before I transitioned. And like those relationships, I feel like I always kind of had like out of body experiences when we were like intimate. And even after I transitioned, before I had bottom surgery, I like, just like the anxiety and the dysphoria that I would feel whenever I was intimate, or like a partner would try to be intimate with me, was just like crippling.
Yeah.
So then when I had surgery and I felt more affirmed in my body, and you know, everything it feels right to me now, I'm finally able to have those intimate connections with people and, you know, form those deeper bonds. So it's really helped me a lot.
I'm so happy for you. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
When I came out as trans when I was 18, I moved to Miami, and it wasn't until I got my gender-affirming surgeries where I was, where I did like lose my virginity, because I was just not comfortable doing that. I was like, I'm not presenting in my best light, and I think I could get there.
Yeah, for me it was like, I'm not fitting the role that I'm supposed to play in this relationship.
It felt weird,
absolutely.
and you also attract a different type of partner. Back in my day, I used to attract what we call a chaser versus
A chaser, a person who dates / hooks up with a certain type of person, such as trans people.
someone who
Oh, I think I've heard of that before. I think. Somewhere. Somewhen. But I think I've heard of that. I think.
was genuinely attracted to the female form, which is someone who I wanted to, like, that's the role I felt. And so that's where I was comfortable. And now I'm comfortable. In Virginia, the T word did not exist. That was on Jerry Springer and Maury Povich, and that's where that stayed. No one was trans. And so I transitioned when I was about 18. I moved to Miami, and my joke is that I hit the tarmac and I said, I'm a woman, by the way. I remember I came out to my mom and I was super nervous, because I'd come out as gay years and years before because that was so much easier. But when I came out, I remember my mom just asked if I was happy, if I was healthy, and if I was going to finish school because she had already paid for it. And I said yes.
Can they disagree a step forward?
Transition definitely ruined my sex life. I was fine with my penis, but a year after estrogen, I felt like that part didn't belong on me anymore. So I went ahead and had sex reassignment surgery. After that, my sex drive was gone pretty much. I kept on having complications. I wasn't able to keep my neovagina open despite rigorous dilation. I had multiple revisions, including colon vaginoplasty. I just got some of my sex drive back last year when I started detransitioning with testosterone, but it's kind of traumatic to have male sex drive back without my penis. Also, I want to say that sexuality is fluid. My sexuality has definitely changed once I lost my testosterone. Before, I was strictly attracted to men. After I lost my testosterone, I was attracted to people in general because now I didn't have this like male sex drive, so I couldn't relate to men as much, as I wanted to have sex, but I just wanted to hold hands and cuddle. And now my body dysmorphia / actual gender dysphoria as well is worse than ever before. I do feel like I'm stuck in a surgically created body. I just don't think I've been really myself by trying to become a woman. Yeah, so transition did take a lot from me.
Bloody hell.
Must be really, really hard. Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. Oh.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
If you had found the results that you desired in the beginning, would you feel differently than you do now?
No, because I realized I just miss being a man, I just miss being obsessed about sex and money. I don't want to do the whole emotional thing. And I'm talking about stereotypes, okay? So I regret, just like now I'm a medical patient for life. Also having sex drive back, it just reminds me that I lost all these years. I could have been having fun, whether it's chasers or, I definitely have internalized homophobia. So internalized homophobia also pushed me into transition because I felt like chasers weren't good enough because I wanted to be a woman. I wanted to escape my homosexuality. But now I realize at the end of the day, I'm a gay man and I'm still living with internalized homophobia because therapists actually never helped me with that.
It's fascinating that you say that because I dated men and women, and in my transition, I felt like I had an internalized homophobia when I was with men because I didn't feel like a gay man. And that was really hard for me to figure out because I had this journey for so long, and a lot of sexual experiences were good, but I was on Grindr and I'm sleeping with these men and they're treating me how I would want to be treated in a social setting, but I was really, really masculine in my presentation, but I tended to be kind of feminine in my roles within sex. And so I think that also got me to realize that I wanted to detransition because it was a reflection of the relationships that I had, to follow kind of some stereotypes. I did miss being a woman in some of those social settings, with how women interacted with me, with how men interacted with me. So yeah, that's heavily relatable to that for sure. So I do not regret my transition. Shocking, I know. That was a really great time for me in the beginning. I really was able to explore and express myself in ways that I could not have done without hormones and surgery. I learned so much about how people treat people based on gender and looks in general. I feel like I would not be the person, especially the confidence and security that I have within myself if I didn't transition as presenting as a woman in this world. My dynamic with men in general is so much different. I was very insecure, very submissive, very quiet, and now I'm able to speak up for myself because of that.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, during my transition, I didn't actually have a high sex drive from the hormones, and ever since I came back, my sex drive has been higher ever since, and I think it's because I'm no longer on the estrogen. My testosterone levels are increased after I changed back to being who I was originally born as, and it also kind of opened up my eyes to say, maybe I wasn't really a female. This is probably what I would like my future spouse to have, to look upon it. And I'm proud that I actually have that sex drive back again because I felt like I lost it for a long time.
The LGBTQ plus community is not as accepting as they claim.
I'd say a large majority of them are. However, there is probably maybe a handful or so of people that, in some ways and some reasons I can't just name off, probably aren't as accepting. But I'd say as a whole, maybe not. I'm gonna go no, but on the basis that as a whole, well, no, as about no, sorry, I'm gonna say no on the basis of that's the majority of them probably are as accepting as they claim, but it's a small group of them that's not making it seem like that way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Musical chairs? Yeah. I'm embarrassed to agree. That is true information.
There's still so much transphobia within the LGBT people in the LGBT community that hasn't been addressed yet.
Shoot, there's transphobia within trans people.
Absolutely. When I was transitioning in high school, I searched for acceptance from the cis hetero world, and now I feel like I'm doing the opposite and searching for acceptance from my own community half the time. Like when I was in college, the queer community on my campus hated me because I did like heteronormative like guy stuff. I played lacrosse, I was in a frat, but like I wasn't that guy, I guess, that they had in their head. And every time I would go to the LGBT club meetings, I would get like they would stare into my soul like I was just this awful thing. And it's always just made me feel invisible and small in whatever space I'm in, and I find that just really disheartening.
And it happens in a lot of other cultures and communities as well too. So
it's funny that
it just happens.
You mentioned like the transitioning in high school part and like that shift from, you know, searching for acceptance outside and then turning around and then having to search for acceptance within the community. Yeah. Because I did notice that when I was still living as a trans man, when I passed really well, all of a sudden it was like I wasn't welcome in these spaces anymore. Until they knew, and then you get that icky feeling of like you only want me here because of that. And you know, now I have the detrans aspect where no community wants me. No one. Like I'm still part of the I'm part of the LGB part, but I've lost people that I thought they liked me for me, and it didn't matter what I was. Right. But then all of a sudden, detransitioning was the thing that I've been called a traitor. Yeah,
me too.
You know, it's, me too. They don't want me. The rest of the world doesn't want me.
That's not true. That's not true.
It can often feel that way.
But it feels really isolating. Like, this is not a club.
It's not a club.
And it's not like a personality trait that I'm just taking up, and God forbid one day I change my mind. I won't, but like, or something happens where I have to detransition, I would hope that the people who stood by my side through everything else would still be there for me because of who I am, period. And not because of an effing label over my head.
And even when I transitioned, I dealt with the traitor to everyone. It was, you know, oh, you want to be a man and the patriarchy. And I was like, I get it, but also... But what I found very interesting was like this divide between trans men and trans women. When I first started doing a lot of advocacy, I was told that just being in the space, that I was taking up too much room, that I was taking up too much space and don't speak and all of these things. And I was like, wait a minute, but I'm trans too, right? This community also belongs to us too. Right. So that was something that I grappled with for a while.
I hung out with a lot of gay women, and then when I transitioned, I definitely lost my space there, and that was like really hard for me to navigate because being shunned out of these female spaces for me was really hard and difficult. And then when I got to the trans male community, there was a lot of competition. Who looked the best, who passed the best, like that was very difficult. Oh yeah. Shoot, fortunately I had a full beard, so it was like an easily, like, you know what I mean? Like, but still, like, I heavily resonate with trans men still, and I definitely resonate with trans women from detransitioning and gender non-conforming people. So it's like, where do I belong?
Weird position to be in, because it's like one community, like I said, doesn't really want you, but you don't fit in. You can't really go all the way back, so you don't fit in with the rest of them.
We just shouldn't have to categorize.
Yeah,
Like, we shouldn't have to float around, wonder where we belong. Like,
we have
I don't
the
understand
other
why we have that.
detransitioners,
Like,
but even then, we're all still vastly different individuals who have vastly different life experience, political views, religious beliefs.
Right.
You know,
You're not just
experience how we
detransition.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
that's no different
Experience how
with
we
the
got
trans
here.
community, right?
In some ways, it's empowering because it feels like even though all this happened, you're being seen as an individual for almost the first time after, spending my high school years being lumped in by both the LGBT community and the rest of the people in a category. But it's also very isolating because you don't have really that community support that other places get.
bye.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you guys so much.
Guys, I've never
This
seen
was
this
really
fantastic.
awesome.
So trendtastic.
It's great to talk to all of you.
That was a good video. That was a good video. I liked that. I enjoyed that one. That was really good. I had a lot more to say than I thought I would have done. So I was wrong. Okay. I was wrong on that last one. Well, that's the whole point of me doing this series, is to learn new shit. It is a touchy. I can't speak. It is a touchy subject. But I think, like with most things, if anything, therapy should come first. Therapy should come first. Because that way you can go to someone and figure out just what it is that's going on inside that head of yours. And then once you know, you can then make an informed decision from that. I think that'll be all, because I'm starting to get a bit knackered from this now. Although this video was a bit impromptu, so you know. But yeah, so I am going to now depart. So thank you all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel Sergeant Beckett. If you like, in the description there will be a link to my link tree, as well as the video for this middle ground video as well. But in that link tree you can find links to several other places on the internet where I do several other things. There's also a Discord channel on there which you can join if you so wish to do so. But thank you again so much for watching, everyone, and I shall see you all in the next video. Adios.